Have you ever spotted a peculiar shadow, a recurring glitch echoing throughout your family tree? Maybe it's a pattern of financial hardship that hits every generation at precisely the same age, or a particular heavy cloud of sorrow that your father and his father before him both bore in silence. For decades, the world has insisted this is merely genetics, or worse, that you're simply unfortunate. Yet buried within the 14,000 pages of the Edgar Cayce archives lies a forensic truth that overrides the apparent limitations of your DNA. Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, revealed that your physical body is not simply a biological fluid. It is a living, vibrating ledger. You are tuned in to the Edgar Cayce archives. We are here to decode the most guarded file in your existence, the Bloodline archive. Drawing from the profound data in reading 281, Cayce declassified what he termed the memory of the injury. He insisted that your cells carry the unsettled accounts of 7 generations of ancestors, their unfulfilled desires, their unpaid debts, and their hidden traumas. You aren't merely living your own life. You are resonating with the frequency of your entire lineage. For the generation born between 1945 and 1965, this isn't just theory, it is a strategic mandate. You were not born into your family by accident. You were sent as a cycle breaker, the one soul in the lineage equipped with the power to audit the ancestral ledger and end the ancestral loop for all who follow. Over the next 20 minutes, we will decode the 10-part map of this spiritual epigenetics. We will explore how a mother's thoughts literally etched your nervous system and why 1945 marked the arrival of a soul wave destined to rewrite your future. Pay close attention to the 7th act, where we reveal the master key from reading 574914, the specific mechanism to dissolve a 7-generation pattern within a single lifetime. Let us examine the echo within your injury and uncover the light that was always destined to be yours. To decipher this echo, we must begin at the source of the signal. Edgar Cayce did not regard your family tree as a mere list of names or a biological happenstance. He saw it as a technical data stream. He revealed the Akashic records not as some remote, dust-covered library, but as a living, high-speed registry of souls. In reading 5753-1, Cayce disclosed that when you chose to incarnate into your particular family line, you were, in effect, checking out a spiritual file. You are not simply a child of your parents. You are the current steward of a complex ancestral portfolio. Picture your DNA as the hardware, while the Akasha functions as the software. Cayce proposed that every unresolved emotion and every outstanding moral debt of your ancestors was converted into a vibrational packet of data. That information is embedded within the very fabric of your injury. Long before your birth between 1945 and 1965, your arrival had already been calculated within this celestial ledger. You did not merely inherit your grandfather's features or your mother's temperament. You inherited their unsettled accounts. This is why you sometimes carry a weighty grief that has no root in your own life, or an inexplicable anxiety that does not belong to your own story. You are perceiving the data held within the ledger. Cayce's readings insist that your lineage is a continuous flow of information, and you were chosen as the one who would finally decode it. You are not merely a descendant, you are a forensic investigator of your own light. And as the archives disclose, your particular generation was given a unique security clearance to access and revise this ancestral data before the mission is fulfilled. But why were you granted this specific clearance? Why was this enormous wave of souls, this particular collective, called to don the garment of flesh during the precise window between 1945 and 1965? The Edgar Cayce archives provide a staggering answer that upends everything you were taught about history. You are not simply a demographic accident of the post-war era. You are a strategic spiritual deployment. In reading 397615, Cayce foresaw an era of deep magnetic and spiritual instability for the Earth. He predicted the arrival of a group of souls specifically prepared to serve as karmic custodians. You were dispatched into your family lines to carry out the heavy lifting that your ancestors simply could not complete. The archive indicates that you were selected because your soul carried a rare, load-bearing capacity. You were strong enough to take on the shock of ancient family trauma and convert it into wisdom. That is why your personal path has so often felt more like a training ground or a battlefield than an ordinary life. You did not come here to accept the status quo. You came to tear it down. While your parents and grandparents concentrated on physical survival, your assignment was always deeper. You were the first generation in centuries equipped with the emotional intelligence to look at the ancestral ledger and declare, "The loop ends with me." You are not a generation quietly slipping into retirement. You are the masters of the transition. You are the cycle breakers who agreed to stand at the threshold of the old world so that the next generation could be born free of the heavy chains of the past. Your presence within your bloodline is no coincidence. It is an act of high-level spiritual intervention. But if your arrival was a strategic intervention, what exactly were you sent to resolve? To uncover the answer, we must examine the technical balance of your lineage, what the archives refer to as the ancestral debt. Edgar Cayce disclosed that every family is essentially a vibrational bank. Every act of bravery, every creative leap, and every wound left unhealed is logged in a collective ledger. In reading 3744, Cayce declassified the inner workings of karma, explaining that it is not a mechanism of punishment, but rather a memory held by the soul. Picture your lineage as a sprawling estate passed down to you. Your ancestors may have bequeathed you acres of wisdom and talent, but they also left behind the unpaid loans of their unresolved conflicts. This is the ancestral debt. Maybe it's a grandmother who never worked through her grief, or a father who lived on a constant frequency of fear. These aren't merely stories. They are vibrational deficits embedded in your very DNA. Because if you were born between 1945 and 1965, you were granted power of attorney over this spiritual estate. You didn't inherit these family struggles out of bad luck. You inherited them because you were the only soul in the family line with a vibrational credit score high enough to settle the accounts. The archives suggest that the weighty burden you have carried for 60 years is merely the interest on a debt that was never yours in the first place. But the instant you stop viewing your family's patterns as a personal shortcoming and begin seeing them as a technical ledger, you initiate the process of foreclosing on the past. You are no longer the debtor. You are the auditor who has arrived to close the books for good. But how does this ledger actually make its way from the realm of spirit into your physical cells? To find the answer, we must look to the moment the ink first touched the page, the 9 months you spent in the womb. In the Edgar Cayce archives, specifically in reading 5747, Cayce declassified a process that challenges the very limits of biology. He disclosed what he termed maternal etching. He proposed that the developing nervous system of an unborn child functions like an exquisitely sensitive recording plate. Throughout those 9 months of gestation, a mother's thoughts, her silent fears, and her deepest unrealized dreams serve as the chief sculptor shaping the child's biological frequency. For anyone born between 1945 and 1965, this represents a crucial clue in your forensic puzzle. You were carried by a generation of mothers who walked beneath the heavy shadows of a world at war and endured the tremendous strain of a society undergoing transformation. What you inherited went far beyond your mother's eye color or the curve of her smile. You inherited her vibrational baseline. This explains why so many of you have spent 6 decades carrying an anxiety, a burden of sorrow, or a relentless drive for perfection that never truly felt like your own. You were simply vibrating in harmony with a frequency that had been engraved into your nervous system before you ever took your first breath. The archives disclose that you were not a victim of this engraving, but rather a willing participant. You selected that particular emotional blueprint because it supplied the precise friction your soul required for growth. That baseline was given to you so that, in time, you could discover the master secret held within the archives. Although the mother etches the clay, only the spirit can breathe life into the finished masterpiece. If your mother's thoughts shaped you and you inherited the unsettled ledger of your ancestry, you may feel as though your DNA is a sealed book. For decades, mainstream science assured you that your genes were a life sentence, an unalterable script passed down by ancestors you never encountered. Yet this is precisely where the Edgar Cayce archives unveiled the bridge of spiritual epigenetics. Back in the 1930s, Edgar Cayce revealed a biological principle that modern laboratories are only beginning to confirm today. He declared that while the body is the outcome, the mind is the master architect. He maintained that your genes are not rigid stones. They are fluid recording instruments, perpetually attuned to the frequency of your consciousness. Modern epigenetics reveals that our environment shapes how our genes express themselves. But Cayce took this concept even further. He disclosed that the most influential environment for your DNA isn't the air entering your lungs or the food on your plate. It is the frequency of your thoughts and the depth of your purpose. For the generation born between 1945 and 1965, this serves as your scientific get-out-of-jail-free card. You are not trapped within the ancestral loop of your family's history. You possess the technical capacity to signal yourselves to execute a different program. Cayce's readings indicate that your spiritual consciousness functions as a high-frequency override. By shifting the vibrational environment of your mind, you literally instruct your DNA to cease echoing the trauma of the past and begin manifesting the vitality of the future. You are not a prisoner of your bloodline. You are the one who has been handed the remote control to your own evolution. But if you possess the remote control to your own evolution, if you are genuinely the administrator of this ancestral ledger, what exact frequency is needed to break a cycle that has persisted for centuries? This lies at the heart of the archive. This is the master key concealed within the vault of reading 574914. Edgar Cayce declassified a spiritual mechanism that permits the complete liquidation of ancestral debt. He revealed that although the law of karma is absolute, it can be entirely overridden by a higher authority, the law of grace. Cayce's data suggests that you, the generation born between 1945 and 1965, have reached a collective threshold where the sandpaper of suffering is no longer a necessary condition for your lineage. You have earned the right to graduate. You have earned the right to perform what the archives describe as a spiritual foreclosure. He maintained that one soul operating with full consciousness and the power of universal identification can dissolve the stagnant patterns of a 7-generation loop. You don't need to wait for your children to transform or for your parents to say they're sorry. You don't even need to wait for a future lifetime. According to the information found in reading 574914, the essential element is a precise change in vibrational ownership. The instant you cease viewing yourself as a branch of a withering family tree and begin viewing yourself as the light that feeds the roots, the chain snaps. The energy that had been fueling the pain across 7 generations is abruptly set free. It transforms into an enormous wave of power that you can now harness to construct your true legacy. You're no longer merely enduring your family history. You are the one who is at last revealing its ultimate purpose. So how do you actually begin the protocol of foreclosure? How do you transition from comprehending the debt to settling it? This is where the alchemy of action steps out of the archive's pages and into your everyday existence. The first instrument in the archive's survival kit for the 60-year-old body is the castor oil pack. Edgar Cayce called this the Palma Christi, the palm of Christ. Within the framework of the bloodline, this isn't a medical remedy, it's a lymphatic audit. By placing heat and oil across the liver and abdomen, you're carrying out vital maintenance on your biological filters. You are, quite literally, purging the biological remnants of generations of suppressed emotion from your very cells. You are cleansing the ledger of your wound. The second step is the recognition ritual. In the stillness of your own space, you must confront the recurring patterns within your family, the shadow you identified at the start of this dossier, and you must name it directly. You must face the unpaid debts of your lineage and declare with complete authority, I acknowledge the lesson, and I no longer need the friction in order to grow. According to reading 574914, this spoken intention functions as a vibrational circuit breaker for the generation born between 1945 and 1965. The ultimate step in shattering the chain is claiming sovereignty. You've spent decades attempting to repair your relatives. That must end. The archives indicate that the most powerful way to rescue your bloodline is to concentrate completely on your own frequency. When the cycle breaker steadies their own light, the DNA of the whole lineage, past, present, and future, recalibrates to match the new signal. By embracing the wisdom and letting go of the friction, you become the technical terminus where 7 generations of an ancestral loop finally reaches a dead end. You are no longer the bearer of the pattern, You are the architect of its resolution. When the vibrational circuit is at last severed and the shadow that has haunted your family tree for centuries begins to dissolve, a miracle unfolds that the modern world is not equipped to witness. You begin to see the emergence of what the archives call the luminous lineage. Edgar Cayce revealed that those who finally align their wound with the spirit life generate a ripple effect that moves in both directions through time. In Reading 6023, he described a reality in which the physical vessel becomes less dense, more transparent to the radiant light of the soul. But he wasn't speaking solely about your personal evolution. He was speaking about the frequency of the children who come through you. For the generation born between 1945 and 1965, your graduation from ancestral debt is the supreme gift to the future. Because you had the bravery to confront the sandpaper of your lineage, the next generation, the children and grandchildren carrying your DNA, will be born into a liquid crystal environment. They will not have to spend their lives battling the same ghost your father and grandfather battled. They will be free to build. You hold a clarity of mind that greatly surpasses your years because you are at last viewing your lineage through the eyes of the architect, not the victim. You have graduated from the apprenticeship of the physical illusion. You are becoming the living testament that one single soul holds the power to rewrite the genetic destiny of 7 generations. You are crossing over from the sunset of the flesh into the zenith of the spirit. You are no longer merely a branch on a dying tree. You are the precise technical point where a new eternal light has been grafted into the human story. You have finally reached the beginning of your true legacy. Yet this realization that you are the architect of your family's future is not an exit from the world. It is your entrance into your truest mission. The Bloodline archive was not open to you for personal relief alone. It was entrusted to you for stabilization. In Reading 262227, Edgar Cayce unveiled the highest law of this theater. The greatest among you is the servant of all. For the generation born between 1945 and 1965, your covenant with the earth is being renewed in this very hour. You are the silent anchors. Every ancestral loop you have severed and every debt you have liquidated through the alchemy of action has cleared the energetic debris for the rest of humanity. You are not a soul fading into the twilight. You are part of a global tapestry of cycle breakers who volunteered to be here for this exact moment of transition. This is our covenant to hold the light when others are lost in the dark. If you felt the resonance of truth within this archive, do not let it sit idle. This knowledge is a living vibration. Share it with one soul, just one, who is currently paralyzed by the weight of family history. Let them know they are not breaking down. They are finally breaking through. Leave a comment below with your birth year and your family's initials. Let them serve as a vibrational placeholder as our community ignites across the globe. Subscribe to the Edgar Cayce archives and turn on notifications to continue decoding the blueprints of your evolution. The time of the shadow is finished. The dawn of the resolved bloodline has begun. Thank you for being the bridge. We'll catch you in the next archive.